I know we lost tonight, but I got to see Chris Streveler back in the blue and gold, so I don't care. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to a Bomber game reaction in the preseason week 1. I am very, very excited. Not because we won. We didn't. We lost. But I'm excited because that means that Blue Bomber football is back, baby. So, getting right into it. In the pregame, so a few things of note. Chris Streveler is back. Love to see it. And as you all know, Streveler signed months ago, but we finally got to see him back in the blue and gold. Got to see him do his running plays. And honestly, it's just awesome seeing him on the field. It's something we haven't seen it in a while. I missed it, and I'm glad I'm seeing it back. So Saskatchewan was starting a lot more of their starters tonight, as opposed to the Bombers. Obviously, they still had a lot of non-starters playing in this and that, and both teams did. Bombers, their starters would play the first quarter, but then basically not see the field for the rest of the game. So this is one of those games where if you're the Bombers, so first of all, the game's worth nothing. The two preseason games are worth nothing. They are solely to kind of get a judge on who we got, and who we got that is maybe a rookie or guys that are just kind of on the practice squad. Give them an opportunity to see if they can maybe fill some of the holes in the Bomber lineup that we have. One of those holes being that offensive tackle position, where we lost Yoshi Hardrick, who then went to Saskatchewan. So so I was hoping we'd see something in regards to that would maybe impress me, and I did. So I'm going to get right into it in the first quarter here. So we'd have a decent start. D-line to start is Cam Lawson with Haba, Jefferson, and Thomas. It looks like Haba is now going to be the full-time replacement for Jackson Jeffcoat now that he's retired. That's right there. Jackson Jeffcoat. And so, yeah, honestly, this was the right decision. I had been calling that this is going to happen. And then I thought that Cam Lawson did a pretty good, solid time when he was in. I was very pleased with him. And I have Streveler running the ball. Heck yeah, missed this. Absolutely. Good to see him running the ball and getting some success with it. Hasn't lost a step when it comes to that. And if anything, he's gotten a lot better with his time in the NFL. Has gotten better in the throwing game and has really just refined his game even more. So love to see Streveler getting some reps in. The Riders would go offside on a short yardage, and it would be first down Bombers. Bombers would continue. Myron Mitchell would have some good looks there, although he would then take a hit and then get walked to the sidelines. So watch this game on CFL Plus. And I will say it's funny because obviously, so for CFL Plus, for those who don't know, when it's preseason and it's not done by TSN through the normal season, it's just the stadium feed and you get the radio and the radio feed. What I mean by that is the camera shots are the stadium feed, but the actual audio is the radio feed in wherever the game's being played. So we got the Saskatchewan feed, extremely biased, but I mean, it was kind of as expected. It was funny because they, you know what? They tried. They mispronounced names left, right, and center, called Mitchell Augustine, which just wrong number. They called Liam Dobson a defensive lineman, even though he's an offensive lineman, and he never once touched the field for defense, but it is what it is. I'm not going to lie, I got a chuckle out of it. But then number 76, Aaron Cruikshank, would then go in at returner. And I have a lot of these, and I have the numbers just so that way when I say them, you might, remember who I'm talking about, just because a lot of people are not going to know these guys by name. Aaron Cruikshank would go in at returner, and this is kind of a bit of a hole in the Bombers lineup, and the reason why is because Janarian Grant is still not signed. Now, the interesting thing about Janarian Grant is that he's still not signed anywhere else. He's just kind of floating around in no man's land, so I don't know if maybe he was asking for too much money or if there's something he's looking for. I know the UFL is in their postseason. They're in their championship games for their conference, the USFL conference, as well as the XFL conference. So I don't know if maybe after the UFL championship, he's maybe hoping to see if there's some guys leaving some UFL teams and maybe he's able to strike a deal down south. And then if that doesn't work out, maybe turn his eyes back north to the CFL. I don't know, but we have to kind of, hope for the best and prepare for the worst. So get some looks in at returner. He wasn't bad. Then Eric, I want to say it's Barrier, goes in at QB. Bombers would punt it shortly after. I go back and forth quite a bit. And then I'm just going to say Barrier because I don't know how to actually pronounce his name properly. Once I eventually learn, I'll obviously say it right. So yeah, it would go back and forth quite a bit. Barrier would then throw an interception. Rider ball, not ideal, is what it is. Barrier kind of had a bit of a rough game at the start. Kind of got better closer towards the end, but threw a few more picks than ideal. It is what it is, though. DB number 13, Bill Hackett, would then take a defensive pass interference penalty. Bombers played a little undisciplined tonight. Took 2 pass interference penalties that were kind of deep ones that really gave up quite a bit of a yardage. So not ideal on that front. No procedure penalties, thankfully. Some offside ones, though. So really got to make sure that we're kind of hammering down on that. But I understand guys are antsy. These are guys kind of fighting for that spot. So I understand why they're going to be a little antsy on the count. It is what it is. But at that point, the Bombers keep it alive out of the end zone. Good push at the goal line. Cam Lawson especially keeps this play alive. And yeah, no, this is where I was very, very happy with our short yardage defense tonight. I think the Bombers did a really good job at holding the Riders back. And even if they didn't fully hold them back and the Riders were able to creep through, it didn't happen instantly. The Bombers gave them a run for their money. And so I was glad to see, playing to the whistle in that regard. Was not happy about the 2 unnecessary roughness penalties that we have taken. I understand they were coincidental penalties where Saskatchewan's took one as well, but be better than that, guys. Don't take unnecessary roughness penalties. Don't like that. Is what it is. But again, no coach is going to like that penalty. But overall, I was happy with our short yardage defense, but the Riders would eventually push through, get themselves a touchdown. And then at that point, Lawther actually misses the convert, which is not really expected. Put this game at 9-3 Riders, but it's funny. If I'm Saskatchewan fans, am I worried about this? Not really. It's preseason. Guys are kind of getting back into form. Definitely would raise an eyebrow at it, though. Convert, not really something that Lawther would usually miss. Misses 3 kicks tonight, but I mean, one of them is I think it's like a 40-something yard kick, but so it is what it is, though. At this point, this is where I want to talk about receiver number 32, Jonathan Rosary. Rosary, I was very happy with Rosary tonight. He did a good job at kind of getting himself open, getting that separation between him and the defensive backs with those outside linebackers, and being able to make those catches, get the yardage, and hold on to the ball. It was everything that you'd want from just a solid, depth receiver. And I don't think it was anything special like a Dalton Schoen where there was these long passes down the field. But it was definitely one of those where I think he did a good job at the small tasks he was given. So I hope that maybe we give him a bit of a bigger sample size. I won't be able to attend the Winnipeg versus Calgary game at Princess Auto Stadium, unfortunately. I have some other commitments. One of my friends is turning 21, so I made sure that I'd be there. But I'll make sure to keep track of the game and make sure to give you guys obviously the coverage of the game afterwards. But overall, yeah, no, I'm happy with Rosary, and I'd love to see more of him, maybe in kind of like a Brendan O'Leary orange kind of a spot in terms of not a roster player, but just slightly off, a guy that maybe sometimes comes in on the rotation, but want to see more of him in the game against Calgary, and then we'll see how that goes. Another guy I was very happy with was offensive tackle number 62, Lamo Coleman, with some good blocks. And he was playing in Hardrick's old spot at the right tackle, at least the part I remember. He might have kind of fumbled around in a few different spots, but I was pretty pleased with him. This is a guy who has spent some time with quite a few other places. Actually, first, before I get that, Castillo hits an excellent 53-yard field goal. 9-6 Riders now. So very happy with Sergio Castillo tonight. Didn't miss any kicks. Getting back to Lamo Coleman, I'm just going in the order I wrote my notes, just because this is another point where he made another great block. But we're talking about Coleman. He's spent some time, with some big teams in the sense of he played for the Dolphins. He spent some time with the Panthers, spent some time with the Houston Roughnecks and the Birmingham Stallions. So spent some time with the NFL, spent some time with the, I think it's technically UFL. In the sense of, I think this is I think he was with the Roughnecks and the Stallions a little bit this past season when they were the UFL and not the XFL and USFL split. But overall, it's one of those things, only 25 years of age, spent some time in the UFL, spent some time in the NFL. This is kind of a guy who's been bouncing around a bit. And so if he's able to kind of do his job and do it well, in the Hardrick spot. He's only 25 years old. It's maybe a guy you want to hold on to. So I was happy with Coleman. I'd want to see, again, he's another guy. I want to see a bigger sample size of him. But is what it is. Barry at this point throws another interception, Ryder ball. Again, this is just me kind of just wasn't the best start for him. Hopefully, when we see some more of him in the next game, he's able to kind of get that down. If he's got any nerves in his system, he's able to get that out. But I understand it. And then right to end the second quarter and the half, Lawther hits a 41-yard field goal, making this 12-6 for the Riders. So Saskatchewan definitely was controlling this game. But again, guys like Schaefer Baker, guys like Emelis were playing a lot more in this game. So it was what it was. And overall, at the end of the day, I was like, guys, if you're going to lose, it just at least have double digits. Just don't lose with 6 points on the board. And eventually, at least they would accomplish that goal. But going into the third quarter, there'd be a rough start as the Riders would have a really, really good return to start the second half. Another guy who I thought had a pretty solid game, defensive lineman number 56, Chauncey Rivers. He goes in and he would, has some good pressure that he would put on. I want to say it was Patterson who was in at this point. I know Pitkin was playing in a little bit in that second quarter, but I think Patterson was in at this point for the Riders. The Riders would press though, and they would get themselves another touchdown. They would go for two. The Bombers would do a good job then stopping the 2-point conversion. However, they unfortunately offside on it, which meant that the Riders had another opportunity for it, and they would get it. I'm not going to lie. Watch that play. I thought his knee down went a little early, in the sense of I didn't think he quite made it in, but they counted it, so it is what it is. 20-6 for Saskatchewan. Barrier would still be in and continue. And trying, and I think he definitely does get a little bit better in this third quarter. So it was at least good to see, maybe some of the nerves getting a little shaken off as the game goes on. Credit to O'Shea actually keeping him in, as I know there's a lot of guys a lot of coaches that probably would have just pulled him after that. But it's one of those things. It's preseason. Give these guys an opportunity. So at this point, offensive guard. Number 59, Ethan Carla is in, and Ethan Carla had an okay game. He had some good blocks here and there, but then there was also a play where Barrier, does a good job getting out of the where he's in the pocket. The pocket collapses. He gets rushed, gets out of it, but then when he tries to go through the center, Ethan Carla is just standing there. Now, I understand that Ethan Carla cannot be aware of what's happening behind him, in the sense that he doesn't know that Barrier has made it out of the pocket. At least I'm pretty sure this is when Barrier was in. It could have been when Terry Wilson was in, but I'm pretty sure it was Barrier. But Barrier makes it out of the pocket and then goes to cut almost in front of the pocket. And the thing is that Ethan Carla's guy is the one who makes the tackle here on Barrier, because Ethan Carla lets up. Because he thinks that the play is gone. You know what I mean? And I understand that. Like, I used to play offensive line when I played football. And I understand when you think the play is done, in the sense of that the ball has went downfield. But it's one of those things where until you see that ball go downfield, you got to keep going. And so it's one of those things where I think overall he had a decent game. However, it's not going to, this is not going to be a play that's not going to look that great on Ethan Carla when they go into film. So hopefully at least the Bombers view at a decent rest of the game, and hopefully maybe that's just a bit of a learning curve. It's one of those things where when you got guys that are rookies, guys that are just coming in and all this and that, there's a learning curve to it. And so at the bare minimum, I hope guys who maybe made some mistakes tonight, everyone makes some mistakes tonight, except Castillo. Castillo was pretty damn good. That they learn from them and move forward. It's preseason. These games aren't worth anything other than, make the mistakes now and learn from them moving forward, and then hopefully they can crack a spot at some point. So best of luck to them moving forward. Bombers would then punt. And this one I kind of want to take a highlight on defensive back number 33, Nico McCarthy. Now, he takes a defensive pass interference, and this is where I'm getting a little bit frustrated about the penalties. But overall, I thought he had a solid game. His coverage was pretty decent. And it was one of those things where at the end of the day, just need a bigger sample size of him. I wouldn't say he necessarily impressed me with any outstanding play, kind of like Rosary, or like a general level of really good consistency like Rosary. But it's one of those guys where I want to see a bit more of him. Hopefully, again, when it comes to these penalties, though, the team as a whole, this is not just a him, this is the team as a whole, cracks down on that and doesn't take so many offside penalties tonight for the next game. I mean, Lawther then misses another field goal. Ball goes through the end zone, though, so the Riders would get 1 point, making this game 21-6 in favor of the Riders. Bombers offense would then go back on the field, pretty much get nowhere. They punt, and we would go into the fourth quarter. At this point, this is where Terry Wilson goes in, and highlights Terry Wilson. I very much like Terry Wilson tonight. I liked him more than Barrier. Terry Wilson had some good moments, and I'll get to them in a bit here, though. I'm going to continue on. Lawther misses his third kick of the night. This is the one I'm pretty sure was 43 yards, but again, raising an eyebrow at that. Gets a single point once again, though, and it is 22-6 in favor of Saskatchewan. It would go back and forth quite a bit. Lawther then hits a 38-yard field goal, making this 25-6 Riders. At this point, I'm like, Bombers, let's get on the board. Let's get something. At this point, this is where I'm really starting to become a fan of Terry Wilson and his scrambling. Very much so. It looks like maybe he spent some time with Zach Collaros, as that scrambling was great. Like, seriously, there were some times where that offensive line was kind of crumbling in front of him, and he did everything he can to get out of the pocket and was making those throws on the run, where he didn't, run to the side, stop, and throw. He made that throw while he was running, and his accuracy was great. And I thought at this point, this is where I was also pretty happy with receiver number 74, Tyler Adams. Had some good catches, and this kind of gets the Bombers going a little bit, and they would eventually get a touchdown pass for number 77, Cleveland's Clercius, I believe. Kevin's Clercius. I don't know how to say the name. Makes a catch, though. Great catch. And I was glad to see the Bombers get on the board. Bombers go for 2, because why not? I mean, we know Castillo's been great all night, but it's a preseason game. We want to learn about all these other guys. So we know Castillo would make that 1 point kick, but we're going to go for 2, see if we can get something done, see if we can, ride the momentum a little bit. They weren't able to get it. It's 25-12 in favor of the Riders. It is what it is. Ball would go back and forth quite a bit, but that's pretty much game at that point. So overall, the Saskatchewan Roughriders would beat the Winnipeg Blue Bombers by a score of 25-12 at Mosaic Stadium in Saskatchewan. And overall, what are my thoughts? I'm fine with this. It's one of those things where the game means nothing in terms of the final score, but I'm glad that we didn't have just 6 points. That doesn't look good. I think I'd like to see 1 quarter of Barrier next game. I want to see 2 quarters of Terry Wilson, though. Terry Wilson in his 1 quarter really maximized that. And so I think he's earned a little bit of a bigger sample size. I want to see that. I want to see Streveler start the game. I don't even want to see Collaros touch the field. There's no reason for Collaros to touch the field. I don't think Collaros needs to play at all this preseason. Maybe for 1 drive at most, but I don't see the reason for it. But overall, I'm pretty happy. Again, guys like Rosery, guys like Coleman, I want to see a bit more of an opportunity from. I want to see a bit more of an opportunity from Terry Wilson. I want to see a bit more of an opportunity for Tyler Adams. And overall, I think there were some good looks, and I think there's stuff to build off of. And I'm curious to see if any of these guys end up on the Bombers starting lineup. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I hope you guys like this video. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you have not already. And later tonight, we're going to be doing the Vancouver Canucks versus the Edmonton Oilers versus the Vancouver Canucks. Games in Vancouver. Game 7 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Round 2. Winner goes on to face the Dallas Stars for the conference finals for the Western Conference. Ugh, I am just tripping words over top of words. But make sure you guys are there. We're going to be streaming that live. And so hope to see many of you guys there. And make sure you guys tune in for when I got next week's Bomber preseason game, as well as our CFL Central content, our reviews and previews of each week of CFL action, as well as the preseason. And so see you guys then. Take care.